Good morning, everybody. Happy Thirsty Thursday to you, April 24th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work, and I'm just so proud of you guys. Can you believe we made it to Thursday? The week is essentially over. Tomorrow, you put it in neutral, and you just mail it in. So let's get through the day. Why don't we? All right, on today's episode, speaking of mailing it in, it looks like Billy McFarland is trying to sell the Fire Festival brand. Should we buy it? Should we? I mean, I think we could put on a party. Can anyone make any bread sandwiches out there? Bread and cheese. We can make Firefest 3.0 even better. Plus, we're going to be hearing from Gleb from Dancing with the Stars as he denies the cheating rumors. And speaking of Dancing with the Stars, Robert Irwin is going to be representing the Aussies in the next season. I can't wait to watch that. And also, Taylor Swift comments through her sources saying, "I want nothing to do with the subpoenas. They are set to reach her this week." We'll have to see. I mean, hey, it might not be up to her. Also, and again, that's all for the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case if you've been living in a cave. Also, Candace Owens turns on Donald Trump. This is fascinating. You love her or hate her, she stands by her convictions and she is defending the Constitution, and God bless that at the very least. Also, did China win the trade war with U.S.? I'm going to share what many different pundits have to say and how this is going to affect us even if we took the big loss on it. So again, it's going to be a little bit of a delay, weeks, months even, before we see the costs of these tariffs and what it does to our products. But we'll discuss all of this, so we have a ton to get into. Stick around. All this and more coming up next on The Rush. Well, it looks like Billy McFarland is trying to pass the torch, as it were, with the Firefest brand. You see what I did there? Firefest is bigger than one person. Not really. So I'm selling the brand, so says Billy McFarland. He's giving up the iconic brand, announcing he's deciding to sell amid all the scrutiny. Listen, I mean, it's not Nike here. What's he going to sell it for? It really begs the question, can the Rush Hour podcast afford to buy the brand? I think we should make a bid. Should we find out what he's gonna? You know what? Get me in on the little bidding war here. I got my stick, so let's go to the auction. See what it's worth. He says, "While my team and I launched Firefest 2, it was about two things: finishing what I started and making things right. Over the past 2 years, we poured everything into the brand." So he talks about how it makes headlines, and it's like, yeah, it makes headlines for all the wrong reasons. But I, for one, have wanted Firefest to succeed, but I don't want to see Firefest succeed without Billy McFarland. So I would actually rather Billy McFarland keep the brand and try again next year. I say every year we support Billy McFarland trying to get this show off the ground. And people say, "Oh, Dave, don't support him. He's a fraudster." Well, listen, I hear you, but if the show finally becomes successful, he can pay back the people he defrauded, right? Isn't that a good thing for all of us? I don't know. We'll have to see who buys it. But again, we'll put in an offer. I think the upper max I could spend on it as a tax write-off is $1,300. Can I buy Firefest for $1,300? Fire Festival presented by the Rush Hour podcast. And, I don't know. We'll have to see. Hey, maybe that's my new career. All us old millennials will show up. How about this? Fire Festival. It ends at 6 p.m. and then we can all watch HBO together. Doesn't that sound nice? We'll get meatball sandwiches. This sounds like a nice sit-in we'll have. All right. Sydney Sweeney updates. We've been covering Sydney Sweeney here. She says she's not getting back with Jonathan, even though she spotted hanging out with him. So I don't know what the deal is. A lot of relationships are like this. People don't want to end it, so they sort of fizzle out until one of them starts banging somebody else, and then they're going to have to unfollow each other. There's no other way for this to end, Sydney. All right, well, speaking of Sydney, we'll get into some Australian news in a minute. You like that? But first, Glebs Response from Dancing with the Stars. Yesterday, we shared that Brooks Nader and her sister outed him as a cheater. Well, of course, they're on-again, off-again relationship. I said he's either a cheater or there's more to the timeline because, were they together? Were they not? I'm on a break. Who knows, right? But either way, here's what he had to say.
Tell you, I'm not a cheater.
What is a rumor, like you were saying, or something you've seen online about yourself that you've never cleared up or said was true or false that's always kind of like eaten you alive that you want to address now?
I mean, look, everybody sees it and reads it and speculate about it, but I tell you, I'm not a cheater. I'm actually a family guy. I'm a relationship guy. I'm not like a boy who goes around and, goes on all these dates. And I'm not even on a dating app, to be honest. And, I've been on tour for 4 months, and this guy's been seeing me. I've slept on the bus every single day. And, at that time, my girlfriend, I went to see her every single day off.
Yeah.
Like, I actually did not have any days off on tour for 15 weeks.
All right. Well, I think I believe Glebs Subchenko here. So it's up to Brooks Nader if they want to call him a cheater. Drop the receipts. What's the proof? They said, 1,000% he cheated. Well, I mean, I guess you got to share some more. So again, we'll have to see if any of that comes out. Well, speaking of Dancing with the Stars and speaking of Down Under, one of the iconic families of Australia, the Irwin family, of course, they lost their father tragically. I believe he was stabbed in the heart by a stingray. Do I have that right? Either way, that was we've got that was Steve Irwin, of course, his father, but we have Robert Irwin here announcing that he's going to be on the next season of Dancing with the Stars. How exciting.
Dancing with the Stars reached out and went like, hey, would you be uncomfortable to like maybe come out with a snake and like maybe have your shirt off? And I'm like, guys, this is just another Tuesday. This is just what I do now. Like this is fine. We're good.
Are you thinking like I will incorporate an animal, a Britney Spears toxic with the snake type of dance?
Britney paved the way. I mean,
Yes, she did.
why not? I'm not sure if they'll let me get a crocodile into the studio, but I'll wear him down.
Have you thought about who you want to be your partner? I mean, Riley did tell us that you're kind of her dream partner.
That would be such a dream. She is just the coolest. I think the absolute world of her,
All right, so there it is. And again, I'm rooting for them, of course. They seem like such a lovely family, and they are, just educators for the world of wildlife. But that season, I think it's going to be a long way away. I do believe Riley Arnold has been confirmed as his partner, I do believe. But for those that want your day-to-day Dancing with the Stars news, I will be here to deliver it in my sequin outfits. All right, well, how about, speaking of Australia, we keep going. We got more on the twins. Jimmy Kimmel Live sat down to chat with the viral identical twins from Australia. Have a listen.
You've caused quite a commotion with this video. When did you become aware that you had delighted the globe?
Well, when we heard from your show.
Hey, this seems like a comedy bit, but I know it's not. Do you speak in tandem on purpose?
No. This is us, and that's how we are. We know that we annoy a lot of people out there, but you know what? If they can't stand hearing us talk how we do, they can just simply turn off the TV.
They can simply turn off.
I love it. I don't find it annoying at all.
All right, so anyway, they're viral hits. So again, can we get the twin sisters from Australia to also be on Dancing with the Stars? Everybody gets Dancing with the Stars. Look under your chair. That's a ticket to Dancing with the... By the way, if anyone does have a ticket to Dancing with the Stars, I've never been invited. Caitlin Bristow, where are you at? You can't hook it up? Come on, we're besties. You can't hook it up? Let's go. All right, well, we got a lot to get in. Oh, you know what? Before we take our break, how about this story? You guys know I've been covering Bachelor Clayton Echard's trial with Laura Owens, the fraudster who faked a pregnancy. And Justice for Clayton official has been riding hard for all of the truth. They're the Paul Revere of truth seekers. The truth is coming. The truth is coming. And either way, they will not let their foot off the gas. And I love it. So Laura Owens owes Clayton Echard $150,000 because she lost the lawsuit, right? She accused him of being the father of her unborn twins. That never materialized, as it were. But she's also got this Airbnb that's making a little bit of money. So here she I guess, signs her name off of the Airbnb, but she backdated it to July of 2024. Oh, que convenient. And if you guys remember, July 10th, right? Or no, June 10th, 2024 is when she lost. She took the fat L in her court case against Clayton. She says, I, Laura Fraudster, hereby remove myself as a member of the LLC. And again, this only went through this week. She owes $154,000 to him plus the money from the appeal she's going to owe him. It's a lot. It's like 180 or 200,000. It's a lot of money. And I guess the strategy here is that, well, if she can take her name off of all of these things that generate profit, and trust me, there isn't much. Her podcast isn't exactly paying the bills as far as I can tell. But if she can take her name off of this, she'll be dodging these payments. I really hope Rachel Mitchell, county prosecutor in Arizona in Maricopa County, is still investigating her, as we are, led to believe. It would be very bad for County Prosecutor Rachel Mitchell's future endeavors if she doesn't take the easy bait and prosecute, or at least charge with crimes Laura, who very clearly committed many crimes, from medical fraud to perjury, even some think extortion. So again, more updates on that as they come. Coming up next, we have Blake Lively Taylor Swift news. As Taylor Swift says through a source, I want nothing to do with these subpoenas. Sadly, it doesn't work that way, and we'll have that update next. Well, it's the week of subpoenas for the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively case. We've talked about the sham subpoena, but now we've got the real subpoena. Those are the subpoenas that are going to be sent out to people that, Baldoni's side and Blake Lively's side seek discovery from. Taylor Swift does not want to be involved in Blake Lively legal battle, as she is expected to be subpoenaed. Again, I'm assuming this is from a credible source, but maybe I shouldn't make that assumption with these gossip magazines, because it's like, no, duh. I don't know, for all of my friends out there, us elder millennials, when we were kids, we used to say no, duh, or no, suh, as sort of like, hello, obviously, But either way, here's what she had to say via her source. Taylor does not want to be involved in Blake's legal battle with Justin, no, suh. She and Travis have been laying low, no duh, traveling and enjoying some time off together, as if. While neither star has been served yet, a source tells ET that they don't want to be. Blake sued Justin, and again, they get into all the details. But again, will Taylor Swift be able to wiggle out of it? I mean, she certainly won't be able to shake this off. Let's just hope that they serve her at a convenient time in between football. You don't want to get served during football season when you're at a stadium full of people. You know what I mean? They'll just serve it to you on the Jumbotron. Nobody wants that. And as we said yesterday, she'll probably get served digitally to her lawyer, and God knows she's got a whole legal team, or she has a whole law firm at this point. Who knows? Either way, she's going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help her God, we believe that'll happen. Maybe it helps Baldoni's case, really. I'm sure she doesn't know that much. Although I'm not going to share what it is. I know you're going to hate me, guys. I heard crazy tea today from another content creator regarding Blake Lively. I know, Dave, how dare you even hint at something without sharing anything? I can't, but just know that there's things in the rumblings out there about what might come out. But we're going to wait till it's vetted. But I couldn't resist telling you guys, if you only knew what gets sent to the DMs. All right, well, we have Not Actually Golden. She's, of course, a lawyer who's been covering this case. She actually talked about the sham subpoena and does a great job, of course. And the sham subpoena, of course, was the subpoena that Van Zandt, a defunct LLC owned by Blake Lively, sent to Jones Work, and how she says there's a theory as to why that subpoena shouldn't even really exist, because Stephanie Jones shouldn't even have had this cell phone that housed all those text messages, because the cell phone was owned by her employee, Jennifer Abel. Have a listen.
Like, maybe the original sin of this whole case, at least on the retaliation claim, is the Stephanie Jones subpoena. I think it might have been earlier than that. I think the original sin here might have been Stephanie Jones taking Jennifer Abel's phone that day that Jennifer Abel was came into the office or came to a meeting or whatever, and it was taken from her. She says inappropriately, because while the data on the phone belonged to JonesWorks, the phone itself belonged to her. You can dial it all the way back to that. And I think that's why she has these counterclaims against Stephanie Jones for, you never should have had that phone in the first place. Now, ultimately, the information is the information, and you're probably going to have to deal with it. It's not going to undo the case.
Yeah, but she's right with the original sin. I mean, this whole case only exists because they were able to get into someone's private messages, which you never would have had, Jennifer Abel would have never given her phone up willingly. So if you're ever getting fired or if you're ever quitting, put that phone tight in your front pocket. You don't want any pickpockets out there stealing your phone. So yeah, I mean, that's, the cat's out of the bag there. So many aspects of this case will be uncovered in the next year. There's just so many layers, and it's crazy to think, as we thought, wow, we're gonna have to wait till March of 2026. But at this point, we hope that's the date, because it's been floated that maybe Justin Baldoni's side, Brian Friedman, will ask for, I don't know if it would be a mistrial or an appeal because of this sham subpoena. I guess it wouldn't be a mistrial, but just the idea that maybe he would end up suing Van Zandt, and that's a separate lawsuit. Yikes. They say it ends with us. I don't think it ends anytime soon. Well, here's an update I'm going to get to, because, I got to defend my friends in California here. California's got a lot wrong with it. It's a big state, just like a big family that messy fights on Thanksgiving. It's got a lot of problems. But look at this. The GDP, the gross domestic product of California, is now equal to the fourth highest in the world if it were its own country. So U.S. is the highest at 29 trillion, and California has always been fifth, but I guess it has passed Japan now into fourth place. This is absolutely wild, And you get all these people that talk about California like, oh yeah, these socialists, we don't want to be funding them, where California is the one who's making all the money, with federal income tax supplying funds to literally dozens of other states that are in the red, not politically, but in the red as far as not profitable states. So California, love it or hate it, it's got the money, which brings into another political question, which is not only does California have the money, but the United States has the money. We have so much money, we should not be dealing with the problems we're dealing with in our country. A, all of the incredible debt that we have. B, those that are making all of this money not paying their fair share, super millionaires and billionaires, they're not taxed nearly at a level that they should, considering they've siphoned up all of their wealth, and there's no way they could ever spend all of that money. So they just hoard it like these fat ducks being foie gras with meat being jammed down there. At least the ducks, it's not by choice, but the billionaires, it is. So maybe one less yacht, and we can maybe get some, people, universal health care and things like that. Why do you got to make everything political, Dave? You know what I mean? All right, well, speaking of politics and speaking of what's going on, we basically had a giant game of chicken where Donald Trump was threatening, tariffs with China at 135% or whatever. It was at the point, when we've all had our dad, or somebody, put us in, what's it called? Timeout? No, detention? What's it called when your parents make you go to your room? Grounded. That's it. We've all been grounded, right? I should be grounded right now from podcasting. We've all been grounded before, and it's like, you get grounded for a day, and you're like, oh, come on, hey, talk some more, and you'll be grounded for 2 days. I don't care if you ground me for 100 days. You're grounded for your life, and then no surprise, you never want to invite your dad over for Thanksgiving because he didn't know how to love you. But either way, that's how it feels with Trump right now, where it's like these numbers. Is he literally pulling them out of his ass? Either way, he's flinched in a game of chicken. This story next. And look, whether you like it or not, we need to be on the side of needing China to do business. They hold, I think, the second most treasury bonds, which means they have all of our debt, which means if they decide to sell the debt, it'll increase the interest and it'll just absolutely decimate our economy. All of that to say, they've literally got our balls in a Chinese-made vice grip. And Trump says, hey, we want to tariff you because we want fair deals. And I've got some people in my audience that, are completely brainwashed. God bless some of them, where they say, well, China's been ripping us off for far too long. They keep saying things like that. Really? China's been ripping us off. Our GDP's bigger than them. Boy, for ripping us off, they're not doing too well. So again, we exchange. We have factories that multinational corporations bring to other countries so that they can make products cheaper, so that we can have our iPhones. Whether you like it or not, that's what keeps the iPhone at $1,000 and not $3,000. I mean, that's just the way it works, right? Well, now we have the results, which is that China seemingly hasn't done anything and yet it's won the game of chicken.
I'm not going to say, I'm going to play hardball with China. I'm going to play hardball with you, President Xi. No. We're going to be very nice.
Well, that sounds like quite a climb down from President Trump compared to his previous very hardcore rhetoric and tactics towards China since he launched this trade war. I think many people, both inside and outside the Chinese government, would probably agree that without having to do anything, Beijing already seems to have the upper hand here because in contrast to all the flip-flops and twists and turns from Washington, the Chinese have been standing their ground saying they would fight this trade war to the very end. While not completely shutting a door for potential talks, they have been emphasizing they would not negotiate under any threats or pressure.
So there it is. No negotiating under threats or pressure. I want to airdrop this graphic I didn't have prepared. But what do they always say? Look, I'm a dum-dum. I didn't go to the Wharton School of Business. I went to University of Rhode Island School of Business. But Daddy didn't pay for it and, whatever. But the point is that what do they always say when it comes to negotiating? The person who speaks first loses. Here's essentially how his negotiations went down. Trump tariffs China and ups the tariff to 34%. China does nothing. Trump hikes the tariffs to 84%. China responds with matching tariffs. Trump hikes again to 145%. China responds with matching tariffs. Trump says that he wants the president to call him. China does nothing. Trump says he's ready to make a deal. China does nothing. Trump rolls back tariffs. USA, USA, USA. I mean, look, and hey, I want everyone to be able to, thrive in our economy, in our world. I don't want to sink the government and the stock market, but that's exactly what's been happening. So China, and again, here's reported by Australia, in case you don't want American news, China responds to Trump's tariff backflip.
In developing news tonight, Beijing has responded to Donald Trump's apparent U-turn in their escalating trade war. The US president has declared he's no longer going to play hardball on tariffs on Chinese goods, but Beijing isn't buying it.
He once called his tariffs the medicine for a sick economy. Now Donald Trump is getting a taste of his own. As the US economy struggles, the president announced plans to cut the unprecedented 145% tariff on Chinese imports.
By the way, it's kind of like you ever try to negotiate with your significant other and they are like a hard no and you're like, okay, never mind. You try to put your foot down and then realize maybe I shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't do that in relationships and you shouldn't do that with billion-dollar or trillion-dollar trade partners. China is like, look, we're not going to talk to you until you stop threatening us. And I actually love that sort of humanity they bring into it. And again, look, there's a lot that's wrong with the Chinese. They do steal intellectual property. There are other issues, but this just isn't the game to play with them because we don't have the chips.
If the US truly wants to resolve issues through dialogue and negotiation, it should stop making threats and resorting to coercion and engage with China on the basis of equality, mutual respect and mutual benefit. Saying they want to reach an agreement with China while continuing to apply maximum pressure is not the right way to deal with China. And it will not work.
There it is. It won't work. And of course, as we reported earlier, you had people saying, look, China will literally fight you for 5,000 years. It ain't gonna work. That's just it. Here's Peter Alexander, founder, managing director of ZBen Advisors, saying, yeah, the U.S. flinched.
I think it's already quite clear that the Americans, the Trump administration, has already flinched. It's not just once, it's multiple times. And essentially we had the TikTok ban, which I find amusing because it has literally been passed into law, supported by the Supreme Court. And because no deal was able to be made, what happened? Trump decided, well, let's keep kicking that can down the road until we can get a deal. Then we had the Apple carve out because, well, we want to make sure that there's, tariffs on exports out of China, but not everything. Then we had, I think earlier this week, the supposed $1.5 million fees that were going to be put on container ships coming out of China. That's been reduced significantly. The decision makers in Beijing are just sitting back, watching and waiting until they can get more clarity. And all they're getting instead of clarity is the clear signaling that the United States just doesn't have a position of power.
That's what it comes down. They don't have a position of power, right? And look, hey, it's like Trump, you can pull this game when you're negotiating for one of your buildings. You can walk away from the lumber guy or the steel guy and then they get back to you. But he's playing this game with Americans' lives. He's playing it with the economy where so many people have their money in the stock market, and he's playing it recklessly. I mean, they're A/B testing, which is to say they're trying one thing. When it fails, they try something else. Failure right now when you're president means the country's failing. It means trade partners will be strengthened outside the U.S. We've talked about this and beat this on the drum for a long time. But in other news, very interesting, in other news regarding Trump is, I've said this all week, where are my Republican friends when it comes to defending the Constitution over Donald Trump? Where are they? Well, here's Candace Owens, and she says, you know what? This is wrong what he's doing. Have a listen.
The Trump administration is fighting against free speech in America. And that is very sad for me to say and to report as someone who has been a supporter of Donald Trump. We cannot allow our rights to be infringed upon. And if you think it's going to stop with college campuses, you're out of your mind. So you better buck up and root for Harvard University in this fight. You better hope that they defeat the Trump administration and this absurd definition. And they even include parts of the Bible. They're like, you can't say that the Jews had anything to do with Christ, killing Christ, which is, what that is? It's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Catholic. The Trump administration.
So yeah, and again, you're seeing homes being raided of pro-Palestinian supporters. When you come back into the country, there was a comedian who just said when they came back into the country and said they were a comedian, they asked, do you say anything bad about the administration? What? We need to live in a world where publicly you're allowed to dissent and be a force of resistance and use your words and your platform and your opinions to challenge others. And yet it seems as though so many people have abandoned reason to make this a left versus right issue. I hope that those on the left and those on the right, the Candace Owens and whoever's on the left, I hope that people can come together and the will of the people will be stronger than what is becoming an authoritarian regime. It's becoming a fascist regime, which was easy to say, oh, that's crazy, that's Trump derangement syndrome at play. But how come, and it's both Trump and Elon Musk. Elon Musk says, I want Twitter I bought it so it could be a place of free speech, unless you disagree with him. And then in which case he throttles you back. And Trump says, oh, we need to bring back these values. Well, if we can't support the values of due process and free speech, then what values are we even supporting and for whom? These are rights afforded to anyone in this country, not just American citizens. If you are here, regardless of how you got here, you are entitled to those rights. That's what we live up to. That's what folks like Candace, myself, and I hope a lot of other people will fight for, because that's the world and the country we want to live in, the one that protects people's speech and the one that speaks truth to power. We're here to do it. If you enjoy this content, follow me on Instagram, The Rush Hour with Dave Neal, or also D Neals. I'm also on TikTok, D Neals, DNEALZ. And if you find these clips, you can just share them and keep helping us grow the page. We appreciate the support. We'll be back this afternoon. We'll see you then. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.